Hey guys, it's your course director Emily Ray here. Just wanted to give you some positive, productive feedback on these resumes that you submitted. So I'm going to be looking at both the submissions from Portfolio 3, which was a text-based resume, and the submissions from Portfolio 6, which was a more visual version of that resume. I'm sharing both classes here so you can see how one of these activities is the basis or the foundation for the other, and that once you get this written content in place, it makes it a lot easier to put together a more cohesive design. So let's go ahead and start out here. This is Kindle's resume, but noticeably absent up top is the name and any sort of contact information. That wasn't overtly stated in the assignment, but the idea here is that you've created a draft of this that, like, in a pinch, if someone says, hey, do you have a resume, that you have something in working order that you can provide. You just never know when those opportunities are going to come up. So I'm looking through this here and I see a number of things that are video related. All except this sales associate here at Foot Locker. So what I want to encourage you guys to do is to think about, how is what I am sharing on my resume relevant to the types of job and work that I want to get. If everything on here has to do with video or some sort of production related experience, the Foot Locker job there, though great to show that you are an employee and that you've been working, doesn't necessarily fit in with the scheme of things. So my recommendation would be to remove that. I see your education and training here. You want to just go ahead and put your highest level degree or any college level degree. So you'll want to leave that high school diploma off. And then with your skills and certifications, it seems that you have some skills in a lot of different areas. But I'd like to maybe see a little bit more of an articulation of, how you're using these skills and in these positions. So again, and I'm probably going to say this with just about every resume that I review, you need to make sure that there is a clear connection between the skills and experiences that you have listed here and the media communications industry. So again, the Foot Locker one most likely will need to be removed. And so thinking about what it is that you want to do when you leave MCBS. Does your resume help you get there? And if not, what experience do you need between now and graduation to get that dream job? And then in addition to sort of what your tasks were at these particular places of employment or projects, what were you able to accomplish? What was your achievement? How did you uniquely approach that situation, and what value did you bring to that project? And also, I want you guys to be thinking about, how can I make sure that my resume fits on a single page? Generally speaking, unless you have over 10 years worth of experience, you likely should be able to curate the content and arrange it in such a way that it fits on a single page. All right, next up we've got Jay's resume here. So it's a little stylized. It's very clean. We've got these sections broken out. But what really stands out to me, Jay, is that these sections are bolder and sort of make more of an impact than the content found within the sections. Now that's okay for right now, but I'd really like to, for you to start beefing up. So when you talk about, being in the Army and you were a combat engineer, what did that entail? What kinds of things did you do? What kinds of projects, tasks, what were your responsibilities, and how can that, if it can at all, translate to the types of things that you want to do in your media career? You have a huge sort of YouTube presence. You make a lot of videos and you're very good at that. And so I'd like to see, instead of this saying hobbies and interests, maybe talk about more, your channel and the audience that you've been able to bring there. How many people subscribe? How many videos a week do you create? What software do you use to do that? How do you, keep engagement going with your channel? These are all things that are unique to your skill set and should be really showcased here in a bigger way than just to call it a hobby, because it is a transferable skill that you could do that kind of work for someone else if you wanted to. Again, I'd take that high school diploma off and be filling in these areas a bit more in depth with the keywords and the descriptions of the projects that you work on, and what you're able to achieve in that. And this goes for you and Kendall both. I don't see anything on here about either projects that you've worked on for Friday Blend or projects for your Hall of Fame experience. Now, those types of things are, directly transferable skills that you can put on your resume if you're able to articulate what it is that you contributed to that team, and so and more to the overall event of Hall of Fame. So I'd like to see those things listed there. So now I'm going to move into the resumes of Portfolio 6, so you can see how these individuals are now stylizing these a little bit, the text-based resumes a little bit more, with some layout and design. So here we've got Yamel's resume. It looks really beautiful. Appreciate you incorporating that feedback that I gave you in class, Yamel. It's very clean. It's nice to see that the work experience that you are showcasing here directly speaks to your professional objectives and aims in journalism. All of this, you've got your awards, you've got your languages here. I wouldn't put this in parentheses, so since prominent language, native language, that doesn't make sense to me. I would just say proficient in English and Spanish native language. I gave you the feedback in class the other day. I like the switch to the color picture here and the way that you centered and cropped it within that area. That looks great. Overall, this is a really wonderful working example of a visual resume and something that you'll be able to tweak and customize for any job that you are applying. So again, your resume is going to be a living, breathing thing because you're constantly getting more experience and you are getting new skills, and for whatever type of job that you're applying for, you're going to need to customize this resume and the way that you characterize your experience to fit the job description so that you can say, hey, I'm a perfect fit for this job. Next up, we've got Brandon's. Now, Brandon, this is looking a lot more like just a text-based resume. We do have one visual element here, and I'm not sure about sort of the, sharing the fonts and the colors that you use. That doesn't really make sense for me there. So as you can see, that's really, this is really following the format more of the text-based resume that we were having the students in Portfolio 3 do. So this needs to be evolved more towards a space somewhat like what Yamel has done here. You've got this great working brand, you've got colors, you've got typography that you're using, but this isn't stylized at all. And so, there's a few things that I want to tease out here, and that would be that you don't really supply any details of your work experience. We've got that you were a correctional officer, that you were a detailer, but how does that speak to your media communication skills and the type of work that you want to do in the industry? You're great with video and editing, and I don't really see any of that here on your resume. So if it's not at these places, what is it? Friday Blend, Hall of Fame, working on production teams. How can you showcase that you are proficient in these areas? How can you showcase your skill sets that someone wants to hire you as an intern in media communications? So a lot of work needs to be done here. And again, you want to establish that clear connection between the skills and experiences that you've had with the types of jobs that you're looking for. And if you're fairly close to graduation now, Brandon, and I know that you've worked on a lot of projects, so I think the work here is just going to be for us to sit down and really figure out how do you articulate, how do you say those things here on your resume. So I look forward to continuing to work with you on that. All right, we've got Brittany's resume here. I've already provided quite a bit of feedback on this one. It's really well designed, easy to read. What I'll say though is that before this background was white, now it's gray. And that gray makes it harder with this heading color here. So my recommendation is to go ahead and turn this background white again, and then that heading color will pop out and give just enough color contrast to make that stand out, make it easily seen. Right now it's a little grating on the eyes. So the other thing that I'll say is, again, no need to include your high school education when you've got college experience here. And so looking at your experience, and that your objective is to work in the media communications industry, I would say that your gig at McDonald's, while great to show that you are a productive and contributing member of a team, doesn't necessarily speak to your media communication skills. So You've got your projects with Garrett here, which is great, and your Hall of Fame, which is great. Can you detail this out for me a little bit more? Can you, just basically find more words to describe the full scope of what it is that you were able to do with Garrett there? In this section with these 2 columns of bullets, if you can, I would center them more in the middle here so that it was about more like in that space instead of the way that it is now. And scrolling down here, we've got volunteer and leadership. We've got a little bit of a weird detail here where the black is extending in this area. And then, so volunteer should be aligned at the top where leadership is. And so instead of this kind of being floating sort of in the vertical center, I'd move it up to the top here. This is great, Brittany. Again, I was like really pleased when I saw it. A few tweaks. I'd like to really tease out more of this to showcase, the way that you've been able to, work in these particular projects and showcase your skills there. So again, be thinking about how can I customize this resume, for the types of jobs, and if it's not through your work experience, how can I highlight projects that I've been on that will share these skills? All right, last but not least, we've got Asta. So another really beautifully styled resume here. A couple of things right off the bat. Storyteller up here is misspelled, so you'll want to revisit whether you're in Word or InDesign or any application. It's imperative that you spell check these resumes. I have had the personal experience where I have floated a student resume to a potential employer, and that employer found several misspellings in that resume and told me that even though it looked like the candidate had a lot of really good experience, they weren't going to interview that candidate because there was no attention to detail with the spelling. So you guys seriously pay attention to that. Couple of things here, Asta. I'm not sure why this word storytelling is wrapping to the next line here when there's plenty of available space for it to float this way. So make sure that this gets up onto one line there. That will give you a little bit more spacing in this area. So look for these types of things. I call these danglers, where it's just a single word that's wrapping to the next line. Likely you can edit the, edit the language down to the point where you can fit it into one place. Scrolling down here, I like that you've included your language skills, but this part here reads a little funny. So it says, born in Nepal, learned cultural and social values and languages as travel taught, right? So I'm not quite sure the thought that you're communicating there, but revisit that just in terms of, the way that it's articulated. It's great that you've included these references here. This looks weird where it's space, line. I don't know, like it wraps at a weird spot. I would put the line, the dividing line at the end here, and then have the email address align left with this information. So skills with these sort of sliding bars. This diagram doesn't tell me anything really about the depth of your skill set. It's more of a comparative analysis of your skills relative to each other. So looking at this, I can say, photography best, Photoshop second best, then videography and After Effects the same, and then Illustrator, right? But that's only compared to each other. I don't know the ends of these spectrums, right? So this could be beginner, and this could be like masterful expert, or this could be, I know the program, or I have access to the program, and I have used it before, right? Or this is the frequency with which I use it. So it really doesn't tell me much. So if you guys are doing some sort of visual interpretation of your skill set, if you're not defining these ends of the spectrum in any sort of way, this diagram only shares your skills relative to these different disciplines. So a couple of thoughts moving forward, guys. You will continue to work on these resumes your entire life, and especially as you continue through the portfolio process and into the class with Kevin, who will teach you how to customize this for any job that you are applying for. things that I want you to be thinking about is how can I articulate my skills and experience in a way that fully shares what I'm capable of. That is the challenge with the resume. It's your words first and then your design second. So let me know how I can help you guys. Looking forward to getting these polished up and you getting some awesome jobs in media communication.